Behold, my glorious supporter Axio has asked me to discuss greedy, flying Nezha. Axio asks, what makes a good vac? Nezha's blazing chakram, when you teleport to it, refreshes your double jump and aim glide, and in open spaces laden with energy, such as Deimos, the Cambion Drift, it's easy to stay above the battlefield, sharing rings with your teammates through Nezha's Warding Halo Safeguard augment, to make them status immune, applying damage vulnerabilities to enemies and spawning energy health drops with your Blazing Chakram, and CCing entire groups of enemies with your Divine Spears. Yes, in this setup you lose Firewalker, but let's be honest, walking is for people who don't have wings. Yes, that all sounds very good, but the question remains, what makes a good vacuum? Now you might be confused about this question, what are we talking about? The idea here is Axio is proposing a solution to my question in the MAG video. In that video, I asked what you thought were good Warframes for using Greedy Pull. Mag can use Greedy Pull because she innately has the ability Pull, but Pull is also Mag's Helminth ability, so you can give it to other people. A really popular build right now is the BEEG SUCC, Get Naked Zaku, where you use Zaku with max range and use the Vast on time to blow off their armor and hit containers to crack them open, and then you use Mag's Greedy Pull to suck in all the loot from a really large range. And that's more powerful than just using like Itzel Vacuum with Cosmic Crush, because the range is much further. Even if you use the range mod for Arcwing, Cosmic Crush only sucks in loot in about a 26 meter range, and Mag's Greedy Pull can be about a 70 meter range. So as long as you can open the containers, Cosmic Crush does that, but you do need to recast it to suck the stuff in. You can suck stuff in from much further away. In open worlds, this is actually a pretty decent way to get materials, and particularly in the Cambion Drift on Deimos, it is very efficient. You can get a lot of resources really fast. It's also just viscerally satisfying. Oh, I cannot tell you. Anyway, there's another parlay about that coming. Axio is suggesting, what about Nezha? You could use Nezha. Blazing Chakram, when you throw it, that's Nezha's second ability, you can teleport to it, and when you teleport to it, it resets your double jump and your aim glide. So if you have a lot of aim glide, maybe you use that one robotics mod that makes your double jump higher, or your jumps higher, or a couple of mods like that. You make your jump higher, and then you have a lot of aim glide. You can basically just fly forever. You just need energy. And you can get the energy by using an explosive weapon to hit the little consumables on the ground, and then suck them in with Greedy Pull, which you're going to replace Firewalker with Greedy Pull. You're in the air, so Firewalker won't do anything. And that sounds fun. I tried that a little bit, and it's amusing. I find it fun. You're asking, what do I think? I have a lot of things to discuss about this. So the first is what I just discussed. There is an alternative. The Zaku Greedy Pull is pretty good. It's very, very efficient for getting a lot of loot. That build doesn't do a lot else besides Greedy Pull, like besides opening the containers. So I gather that this is an effort by you to make like a play style that does that, which I really admire. I personally am still not convinced that the Zaku Get Naked Greedy Pull thing, you might be able to actually play that build and do a few things. I'm not sure, but anyway, operating under the assumption that you can't, indeed, maybe there is a playstyle where Greedy Pull fits in really nicely, where you kind of want pull anyway, and then you might as well run Greedy Pull, and it's just a bonus. You have the range anyway, and then you can get the full benefit of Greedy Pull. Hopefully some other mechanics like the Warframe stays up in the air a lot, like Zephyr comes to mind, and yet there's actually a playstyle, like the build actually does something. So the second thing I want to talk about is the idea of using Nezha. I personally don't think that Nezha's abilities are that good when you're in the air. Warding Halo is, certainly Safeguard from above, is pretty good. I really like the idea of using that for like excavation or defense of any kind, because it means that you're over the enemies and you can monitor the situation. You don't need to have enemies sneak up on you. You're way above them and you can see. A lot of defense and especially excavation missions have environments large enough that you could actually fly like this. It doesn't have to be only in open worlds, and you'll kill enough enemies that you might be able to sustain your energy as well. I think you might be able to do that playstyle in places other than in open worlds, which is cool. The problem I have is with Blazing Chakram and Divine Spears. I don't think Divine Spears is that good, so I'm going to move on to Blazing Chakram for a second, but I'll come back to that. It's not so easy to get it to bounce between enemies in my limited experience when I tried this off stream a little bit before answering this question. I didn't really feel like it that reliably was hitting a lot of enemies and accomplishing a lot over just shooting them when you were in the air. I felt like if you were on the ground, it would come up pretty fast, and then you just cleave through the enemies and you get a bunch of stuff. In the air, I don't know how I feel about it. The aim on Blazing Chakram can be a little wonky as well. So I guess I question my problem with this idea is I don't feel like you're doing a lot by being airborne. Like, it doesn't accomplish that much. One thing it does accomplish is it makes you safer, but Nezha is quite naturally safe. With good damage reduction from Warding Halo, and then you can move really fast because of the slide passive. If you didn't get rid of Firewalker, you could use the zone control from that to keep yourself safe as well. So I sort of feel like it doesn't, being in the air is not, like, there's not really a reason that this is better on Nezha than someone else, besides that Nezha can fly forever, which is definitely a benefit. So I think then the question becomes, like, are there other Warframes that can comfortably be in the air forever? Zephyr is an obvious one that comes to mind, but I don't know how ideal that is. I'm not sure Zephyr is doing like a ton if you're just in the air either. I feel like for the whole in the air thing to pay off, we have to figure out what benefit we get from being constantly up in the sky. And I feel like there are some, but Divine Spears, going back to Divine Spears, reminds me of Mag's Crush, which you want to use to bank overshields on Mag a lot of the time. And the thing is, like, even with a lot of range, if you're high up in the air, you often don't hit enemies with that range, even though you have max range, if you have max range. Because, once you're high up above the battlefield, the range quickly diminishes. You have this big sphere that is your range of effectiveness, but I find that surprisingly soon after you're, like, leaving the ground and you're far away, it feels like you're not that high up, and yet enemies don't get hit. Like, you're only hitting with, like, the bottom of that sphere. You're up here, and the ground is here, and only the bottom of that sphere is hitting, like, a small number of enemies on the ground. And I feel like that amount of range is not that effective. In short, personally, using this idea of yours, I didn't love it. I do love the suggestion. I do think that it's a fun idea to think, what could be a playstyle built around flying, like being airborne? And I don't think that it is impossible to find a solution for such a thing. If you're having fun with this, then that's fantastic. I don't think you should stop liking it because I don't have as much fun with it. Personally, I question the value of Nezha being airborne, but it is very interesting that resets your jump, and I feel like we can possibly figure out some other way to capture the essence of that flying playstyle with a Warframe that has more of a special relationship with being in the air. I'm just trying to think. I hope you can see, like, as I'm trying to, like, finish what I'm saying, but the gears continue to turn. I don't know, ultimately. So the third thing I wanted to talk about here is how you all feel. This is going to be a slightly more feedback-focused parlay than some of them are. How you all feel about this question. Do you think that the category of, like, Warframes with pull, or like vacuumy Warframes, do you think that is more of a framework thing? Do you think it's more of a something that should be in the kind of meme build series that at the time of this recording you don't know the name of yet? Or does it not really belong in either case? What do you think? How does it feel to you? Is this too small a niche? Are you an audience member that's thinking, why do people care about this so much? Are you an audience member that feels the way I and probably Axio do, where it's like, okay, but vacuuming up all this stuff is really satisfying. I want a play style that kind of plays into that. Do you think that the Nezha version sounds fun, or have you tried it and you like it? Is there another one you like? Do you really like that Zaku get naked thing for vacuuming up a lot of loot? What all do you feel the purpose of this playstyle is? Is it to survey the battlefield and then suck in loot from far away? Is it like the convenience of having a bigger vacuum? Is it just for farming open world resources? How do you feel? I'm curious what people think. I really like this question because it makes me think that people are beginning to become excited about framework possibilities again, and I am excited about them too. I've been feeling a little overwhelmed, but in a good way, thinking about, when I asked about the mag greedy pull thing, I realized what a can of worms had been opened by that concept. Because the question became, where do I even put that in videos? Do I put it in mag videos? Is it even really a mag thing if we're going to share it with other Warframes? I don't know, So this question really made me think a lot about Framework as a series and how I'm going to structure it. I do have an idea that I guess since we're 10 minutes into a video, I might as well share with you here because not too many people are going to see it, right? And that is that maybe some abilities are going to need their own episode. It's not going to be an episode about a Warframe. It's going to be like Framework pull, just like pull, not mag or a specific Warframe, but just pull. And then I'll just talk about like on mag, blah, 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 blah. And then you can share it with like Nezha, or because you can fly forever, or like Limbo or Zaku because they can break stuff open, or, da, 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 da. All the Zephyr, I suppose, stuff like that. And then what the relationship with the ability is. These abilities that provoke people's imagination and kind of have like whole, maybe not play styles. I don't know if pull has a whole play style around it, but greedy pull is this fascinating thing to plenty of us. So maybe that deserves its own video to discuss, what are we working with here? What do you care about when you do it? You want a lot of range, you want an augment slot. The duration doesn't really matter that much. It's not very efficiency hungry. You often gain energy by doing it. And so that's not too bad. So it's not super demanding. You don't really need strength, duration, or efficiency. You just need range and the augment. That's not so bad. So surely a lot of Warframes can use it, probably. But who, And there are many different approaches. The approach that Axio has taken is to suggest, well, this Warframe can fly forever, and being airborne makes it easier to suck stuff up. True. You could take a very different approach and say, well, Maim Equinox has the stats that this wants and has room for the augment. So that's a good place. But there's really nothing about that playstyle that actually is related to, or for example, like Maim Equinox is very bad in open worlds, or not terrible, but not very good, I would argue. Usually your enemies are spread out in a large enough area that you can't have them all within Maim's range, so it doesn't charge too fast, and you're often not going to hit a lot of them at once. It's an okay panic button, but it's definitely not. I mean, Maim being very bad is kind of silly, but I just mean like it's at its worst. It's a lot less good than it is in other places, in open worlds, and so that clashes with greedy pull. And yet the stats are there, and you've got the space, That's what it makes me think of. This is one of those questions where you requested a discussion in the end, and I hope that you feel like I discussed things that you were interested in. That's how I feel about it overall. One other thing I have to say about Nezha is that Nezha's build is already what I would consider to be a little crowded. Nezha is not particularly stat dependent, but Nezha has a lot of good augments. I would argue that there is essentially no Nezha build that doesn't benefit from Safeguard and Blazing Chakram's augment, although you can certainly use it without it. And so that already takes up a bit of space. And then speed is fairly valuable if you're on the ground. You're getting rid of Firewalker. That certainly frees up some space. Firewalker is a good augment too. I might get rid of Divine Spears. If I was going to replace an ability on Nezha in the abstract, I get why you replaced Firewalker here. So I don't know, that's something as well. Like I sort of want a Warframe that has more space. I also feel like Nezha doesn't benefit that much from range, but Divine Spears does. You certainly want the range if you're going to be in the air. Yeah, like it doesn't make no sense, don't get me wrong. It made me think a lot of things more than it made me think, I love this specific idea. It made me think, wow, I really need to figure out an adequate way to encapsulate this thing in my series, And I think that solution of maybe making an entire episode on like an ability here and there will make the most sense. I'll tell you right now, one Warframe that is definitely going to get something like that, and that's Rhino, because I'm sick of people saying Legispo Roar on everything. So yeah, the whole roaring is boring video will definitely exist. There will definitely be a video that's like, hey, you could put roar in all these places and here's where it would be good, but don't, because it's pointless. You don't need more damage. If you do need more damage, then I guess, but you could do all these other things. And the helmet slot is worth, or your one swappable ability is worth more than just some damage. You can do more a lot of the time. Maybe not all the time. And anyway. So thank you for asking, and welcome to you, and you began a parade of new Parley patrons. So I'm really excited to hear your future questions as well. Thank you so much for your support.